Welcome to Buffers Brewery again, and yet again I'm making a little video about the good old King Keg. This time it's about the cap and what you should do with it. In my opinion, you should throw it away. I basically had so many problems with the cap leaking from either the seal at the top or from the rubber band, which is the pressure relief valve, or from the rubber band, which is a non-return valve. Basically it's a nightmare. So I set about trying to make a different cap, and this video is about what I've come up with. Okay, let's start by looking at some of the shortcomings of the original cap you get with your pressure vessel, in this instance the King Keg. Because of the way the thing is made out of plastic, there's pretty big tolerances on the thread. So without tightening this down, you can see that there's a lot of play in the thread, up and down, side to side. So the engagement on the thread is a little bit iffy, to say the best. And you can see the cap can wobble. So you can imagine that if things aren't all in place, you could end up with the cap being slightly an angle and not applying even pressure on the seal on the top of the barrel. The original cap's also provided with a Hamilton barred valve, which has got basically two rubber bands for valves, one for a pressure relief valve and one for a non-return valve. Both prone to leaking, both prone to splitting, both prone to perishing, and usually they fail when you least want them to. So there's a lot not going for this approach. So when I started, I thought, well, I'm going to come up with a design that I won't need the two rubber bands, get rid of those, and also I want to make it so that I use the thread on the barrel, but I have a much tighter engagement on the barrel, tighter than the cap. So the idea I came up with was basically a acrylic casting, which I used the original cap to produce the thread inside. So this is what I've got, which is basically a ring with 6 M8 bolts that have been cast into position. So this won't actually fit on there now, because as the casting sets, it actually shrinks. So this is quite a tight, snug fit on there. So in order to make it an adjustable clamp, I have to cut a little section of the moulding out and then use this part here to drill a hole through, so that I can allow these parts to splay, and then I can tighten it back to get a good firm fitting on the barrel neck. And this is what the finished item looks like. You can see I've cut the slot there, and there's a screw through so that it can pinch those two bits together to clamp onto the barrel. So let's put one on and see what it looks like. So I'll actually thread on, and that just threads down until the barrel neck is exposed above the moulding. You can see there. So now when the seal is put in place, it won't touch the collar at all. It's free to do what it likes. So you can see at the moment that is quite a loose fit on the threads, but I can do this up. It doesn't have to be done up very tight, but you can see very quickly it takes all the movement out of it, and it's now effectively, that's now part of the barrel. So now I can fit my top on and put my seal in the middle there on top of the barrel and produce an airtight seal. So what I did there was I made a little nitrile rubber gasket seal, and then I made a second acrylic casting, which is literally just a flat disc and two holes, one for the pressure gauge assembly and one for a Schrader type valve, which I can use to leak test the assembly when it's put together, and also I can use it to charge the barrel with CO2. No rubber bands inside, which is good. Okay, so that just fits on the top, nice and simple. And then, as you would expect, washers, followed by some wing nuts, which I use to tighten the top down. And because it's sort of the top is floating on these bolts effectively, it'll find its own level with the seal, and even if the seal is at a slight angle to the barrel, or the barrel is at a slight angle, the top will tilt to accommodate it, so you can get a nice even load, pressure, whatever you like to call it, onto the seal, so you can get a nice even seal. So once it's all tightened down, obviously that can then be pressurised. There you go. And you can do a leak test on it. Obviously spray the top two, make sure that they're all sound with a bit of soapy water. But the nice thing about it also is that you can spray your soapy water up underneath this disc, because that's where the sealing edge is there. You can actually see it, unlike what you got from the cap, where the sealing join was up in the depths of the cap, which you couldn't see. And for me, I found it difficult to do an effective leak test on that seal. And but this one you can actually leak test a whole lot. And if you see a little leak on one side, you can just crank the bolt down, or the wing nut down, sorry, and you end up with a nice airtight fit. So there it is, in all its glory. The Buffers Brewery Pressure Barrel Bung. So this is the finished assembly. You might be wondering how I charge the barrel with CO2 using a Schrader valve, and I use the S30 brew gas cylinder, which requires the Hamilton barred connector. Well, what I did there was I made a little gadget. So from the discarded cap, I modified the Hamilton barred valve, basically cut it in two and got rid of the safety valve section, and I've soldered an 1/8 BSP parallel nipple onto that part of the valve. So this is the bit that goes into the cylinder, and that 1/8" BSP nipple enabled me to connect it to this pneumatic one-way valve, and then from there I've got onto an 1/8 BSP to a 5mm bar fitting, so I can attach a short length of the replacement foot pump hose you can get from Halfords, which obviously that end fits onto straight about like that. You need this one-way valve because if you just connect that straight on, this will start leaking straight away. But at least with the one-way valve, you can connect that and you'll get no gas loss. What I do is I prime that with a little bit of CO2 before I connect it, so I've got CO2 in the line, and then once it's connected to the Schrader valve, you can just screw in the S30 cylinder and charge it with gas. Take it off. That's it. Again, a good way of getting rid of those dreadful rubber bands from the original cat. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video and found it interesting. Yeah, leave us a comment if you're interested in finding out more about the Buffers Brewery Bung, and I'll get in touch. Till next time. Cheers.